I'm again with an interesting piece, the NY0119. This is a Citizen automatic 200 meter diver, a fully lumed dial. That's the highlight of this watch. It really shines and shows itself from the best side during darkness. So I have it here just during daytime. I'll put in some pics of the loomed or of the lume in action, and we'll just go through some of the specs and take a closer look at this. So it's, as mentioned, an automatic caliber 8203 that is mass-produced Miyota caliber, an automatic movement, 21 joules, nothing modern. I think it was made somewhere in the 80s, the original design and version. It's still more or less made in a similar way. The Citizen automatic calibers are not really famous or well renowned, but it does the job. I mean, they are quite economical. The price is quite competitive. So we have to, let's say, accept some downsides if we decide to get this watch. This is the so-called Fugu. It's also called the Fugu. If you look at the bezel with this really strong kind of edgy ratchet kind of design there, that is why it's called the Fugu. It reminds, it's reminiscent of a pufferfish. Fugu is the Japanese word for the pufferfish, so that's where this comes from. This is quite an iconic watch. Actually, there is this other version here now, I mean the NY0119-19X. This is one of the first dive watch I ever got. It's quite a number of years old, 10, 12 years. I really always did like the dial, this beautiful sunburst blue color. So they've come out with this new so-called third gen of this similar design. You can see the bezel is this Fugu pufferfish design. What comes to mind, of course, is first is the size. So they went from 42 millimeter to 44 millimeter width. They went from a 60 click bezel to 120 click bezel, and they went for sapphire crystal instead of a mineral glass. So even though they are different colors, just put them side by side here, you can see the design is quite similar. I would say especially the printing on the bezel. I do prefer the old version. It is much more iconic. This new version does look a bit meager. It's just a very thin printing. I think they did not do a really good job there. This on the right hand side, the old dial, the old bezel with that four is those prominent little dots there. I do like that better. Okay, so let's focus on this one. We have 44 millimeter width. We have around about 30 millimeter thickness. We have the sapphire crystal as mentioned, and the 120 click dial bezel. I don't know if you can hear that. So much better than the old 60 clicks. So I cannot grab it. So this is a nice simulation. I imagine if I had to do this underwater. Okay, so at least you can hear the sound. It works. So it's a bit different than what we know from other watches, or at least a lot of Seikos that I like, which have a dampened gasket drag kind of bezel sound. This is quite a clear click. It does the job. It lines up. It's an aluminum insert bezel, it's okay. It's an improvement to the old one, and I would say it's fine if you compare it to other watches. We have a screw down crown at the, what is that? That's the 8 o'clock position. A nicely knurled screw down crown. We have the Promaster signage there. So that's really, yeah, good in terms of that, this Citizen really uses some of its icons and puts them on the watch, not like Seiko doesn't do that anymore. They don't sign all the crowns. So yeah, the Citizen does it, and I think it's a good idea. 8 o'clock position for the, I was just thinking about that for the screw down crown. I mean, actually it's a perfect position if you ask me. Most people wear the watch on the left hand, so there's absolutely no digging into the wrist of the crown. It's really on the other side. Nevertheless, it's still somehow reachable, but under normal conditions you don't really need to do any adjustment when you're wearing the watch. So you will just adjust time and maybe wind it before you put it on, and that's it. So you know, there's no need to have the screw down crown on the 3 o'clock position or even the 4 o'clock. I'm totally fine with this decision by Citizen to put it on the 8 o'clock position. The dial, as mentioned, is a fully lumed dial, which has a really limey kind of color during the daytime. It's also, let's say, a special kind of color that it radiates. Even though it really comes into play when you, let's say, go out in the evening and you, or you come into the dark from a sunshine kind of place, then it really, I mean, it glows like a light bulb. It's really quite amazing. Of course, that's what you would expect from a fully loomed watch. The dial, other than that, I mean, it has a good legibility. We have this maybe a bit, let's say, it gets a bit noisy in terms of, or busy in terms of all those little lines in black and red on the hour marker and the minute marker. That maybe could be a gripe. We have all kinds of colors. We have the lime green, we have some gray on the hour markers, the red and the black. So yeah, maybe a little bit of less color variation would give it a cleaner look, but legibility is really good, and no issue about that. We have the Promaster sign, automatic, and the dial is 200 meter. So very clear here again, the iconic Promaster sign. They just really use their brand, their sign to place it in certain strategic places. We have a date complication. This is nice with this Kenji version. It has an English version, a Kenji. So that is a little playful, or yeah, for European or for non-Japanese eyes. It's a nice little feature there, something exotic. I guess if you're a Japanese, then congratulations. Then you can even read it. I guess we can just guess what it is if we don't know it. It's also legible, so we have black lettering on a white background. No issue there. That's pretty good. The case itself is, as mentioned, 44 millimeter in width, and it's polished. It's quite a round case. Most of the profile is rounded. We have some brushed, looking at it from the top, we have some brushed surfaces there. So a nice combination of brushing and polishing. And I mean, that is always a nice kind of finishing, this polishing. It's good. There's really no issue on a watch like this, which is pretty, let's say, lower end in terms of price. To have some polishing, that is really good. Looking at the case back, screw down case back, and this really nice pufferfish, the Fugu, and we have this laser marking, deep laser marking there or is it? No, actually this is already some kind of engraving. It is really, yeah, it's quite, let's say, deep, so it's probably not laser marking it. It's a nice feature again. I like this kind of marine theme there, and this is a limited edition, so it's limited to 2,000 pieces, and it's an Asian release, so yeah, limited, but I think it's still readily available. What else can we say about this? The silicone strap, as you can see, is much better than the old strap. I mean, this one I've got on a NATO strap, but it comes in this. The original version comes in a similar silicone strap, which I find far too flimsy. It tapers down a lot. If you have a big wrist, this does look a bit, let's say, toy-like almost. If I have an 8-inch wrist, and it makes it look a bit flimsy and small. What is quite cool as a feature, so this obviously tells everyone you're a diver. In many cases, just a test diver, but here we have some no decompression limits. So what we can see here is basically based on the depth, which is the white number from 12 meter to 45 meter. It would be the bottom time that you can spend without requiring any decompression. So if you're at 12 meter depth, you can spend 200 minutes. If you go to 45 meters, then after 5 minutes you'd better be surfacing, or else you'll need a decompression stop. So that's an interesting kind of technical information there. I assume it's more for decoration, because any diver would not require this. I mean, if I go diving, usually we would know to what depth, and then I mean, you have other gadgets for that. So as long as let's say you have all your equipment, should be no problem. Maybe for some kind of an emergency dive, James Bond kind of dive, maybe you need that information. The other side, yeah, we have this accordion style here. That's quite nice. It's subtle, it's soft, it's quite elastic. We have two rubber keepers there, and we have a nice stainless steel buckle. Yeah, it has no Citizen branding there. It's just a normal buckle. So yeah, I would say it's okay, but I still find it a little bit flimsy. I would like a bit more a more substantial silicone strap. All right, guys, I think that more or less covers everything. I hope I showed you a nice watch. This is just something to wear on rotation, and yeah, maybe not something you would wear every day, but it has a nice fresh kind of this limey look, and the effect of the Lume, it is quite stunning. Okay guys, thanks, bye, take care.